So I've covered a lot of isekai stuff on this channel, but nowhere did I ever think I was going to be covering a Suicide Squad isekai anime series. Yeah, this series is exactly what it claims to be. This is Suicide Squad get isekai'd into a fantasy world. This series is by Wit Studio, who are best known for working on the first 3 seasons of Attack on Titan. They also worked on Spy Family, The Ancient Magnus Bride, Seraph of the End, and Vinland Saga. So not a bad studio to be partnered up with. And when it comes to these reviews, I'm going to be covering every single episode. Right now, at the time of this recording, 3 episodes have come out. The first 3 episodes were released together as a batch, and there's going to be 10 episodes. But rather than doing one review on just 3 episodes, I'm going to do 3 reviews for each episode, because I want each episode to get its own review, as well as I'm reviewing this before watching episode 2 or 3. So even though episode 2 and 3 are out right now, I have not seen them yet at the time of this recording, because I kind of want to review each episode on its own. So yeah, we're going to be judging each episode on their own merits. And then of course, once we get to 2 and 3, we'll be judging how that episode follows up the previous episode. So with that said, let's jump right in. So we start off with Joker and Harley Quinn, and they are basically just wreaking havoc in Gotham City. Right now they're inside this building, and there's a bunch of hostages tied up, and Harley Quinn's just kind of monologuing about how she wants to take Joker to another world because this world is just ugly and corrupted and stuff like that. And as Joker and Harley are doing this, we get intercuts between Amanda Waller and what she's doing at Argus. What she's doing is she's trying to open up a gate to another world. Interspliced between Joker and Harley causing havoc is Amanda trying to force the scientists to strain this portal and make it bigger so that they can fully open up this portal into another world. And so we see soldiers, Argus soldiers, rushing into the building that Harley and Joker are in, and they come across the hostages, and the hostages basically have bombs strapped to them, and it blows up the building. And then we cut to Harley and Joker, and they're driving through the street in one of Joker's cars. And the interesting thing about this is that this car has no steering wheel. Instead, it's just a piano. So as Joker is playing the piano, he's controlling the car. Really weird, but I don't know, I kind of like it. It's nice visually because he's basically playing the soundtrack to them causing havoc in the city by playing the piano on the car, and that's how he's controlling this car. And we just see him like dodging police officers, dodging Argus agents, Harley Quinn's like smacking bombs at their cars and stuff like that. There's one moment where he like hits this ramp and basically cuts open their bag full of money, and it basically just causes a bunch of money to fall on what looks like a bunch of homeless people, and then they start fighting each other over the money. But eventually Harley grabs the emergency brake and pulls the car to a stop right in front of a bar. And she basically says to Joker to wait out here. I'm going to go get something sweet to drink. She goes into the bar, notices that everybody is looking weird at her, and then she goes up to the bartender, asks for a drink. Then she asks the bartender, like, hey, how's KJ doing? Is he taking the day off? And the bartender says, yeah, he called in with a cold. And then as soon as Harley gets her drink, she leans in and she's like, there is nobody named KJ. And that's when she realizes that this is an ambush. And she yells out to Joker to get the hell out of there. And just as she yells this, a freaking fleet of Argus soldiers, like in tanks and stuff, show up and start shooting at Joker, and he bails out. Meanwhile, Harley is just taking out all these soldiers that are inside the bar, and she eventually makes her escape towards the rooftops, where she gets confronted by Katana. And we get a fight scene between Katana and Harley. And I'll say this fight scene is pretty interesting. It's not like super over the top or anything like that you would expect from an anime. In fact, it seems very realistic. And my guess is that maybe they actually had actors acting out the fight scene, and then they just kind of like, I don't want to say rotoscoped it, but they used that to animate the fight scene. I could be completely wrong, but this is just my thought on it. And also just the way that this fight scene goes is like the way that Harley's like throwing boxes and stuff, the way that they move, it seems very much like they pretty much just had someone act out the scene, and then they just kind of traced that. There are even like there's a moment where Harley like grabs a steam pipe and like pulls it out to use as a battering ram, and like the steam comes out and she's like dodging the steam and kind of trying to get away from it. It's just like moments like this that make it seem more realistic. But eventually Katana wins and she knocks out Harley. Meanwhile, Joker has escaped. He's been able to outrun Argus. And with Amanda Waller, they're using some kind of female to power up this portal that they're trying to open. We don't see who it is because the female is like wrapped up in bandages. I'm thinking it could be Enchantress just because she is going to be in this series. Like if you look at the cast for this series, her name pops up. It might possibly be her, but I have no idea. It could just be a made up character. Whoever it is, they're using them to power up this portal. But she's actually able to get it open. And so we cut to a year later where Amanda Waller is going through the Belle Reve prison and she's gathering her crew for the Suicide Squad. And so we have a moment where like, she gets Harley and she basically says, I got a mission for you. Frees her from the prison. And as she's like leaving, the warden there is basically like trying to rough up Harley and said that, you know, like I gave you everything that you wanted. The least you could say is thank you. And then Harley kicks him in the balls and she gets tased. And then we see Harley naked in an almost like magical girl kind of setting. Like it very much looks like when Sailor Moon transforms. So we just see like Harley Quinn naked and it looks like she's basically like going through this portal. And then as she's going through the portal, we see like flashes of other naked people like super quick. And then she wakes up and she's in a plane, handcuffed with some other inmates. And the other inmates, it's not explained who they are yet. It's explained who they are at the end of the episode, but I'll just say who they are now. So the inmates are Harley, Deadshot, Clayface, and Peacemaker. Peacemaker, for some reason, has a bag over his head. I was kind of confused because like I didn't know that this was Peacemaker at first. Like I could obviously tell that Clayface was Clayface just because of the fact that he's like obsessed with acting and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, that's Clayface. Deadshot, I mean, he's always like a mainstay when it comes to Suicide Squad. Peacemaker, though, looks kind of different. I was not expecting this person to be Peacemaker. I was thinking maybe this is like Killer Croc, and that's why his head was covered. Though it does make sense because Peacemaker keeps talking about how they're on a mission for peace, so that should have been a huge giveaway. But eventually this other guy shows up. His name is Adam, and he is a Argus agent, and he's going to be leading the squad. And Amanda shows up on this like video screen and basically tells them that, you know, there's a mission that they're going to have to do. If they do this mission, they'll have their senses reduced. There's also a bomb that's been implanted in all their necks. And the bomb is set to go off every 72 hours unless you're doing what she says. Like if you do what she says and you radio that in and stuff, then they'll reset the timer. If you don't, if you disobey the rules, the bomb goes off. If you try to do anything like escape, the bomb goes off. If you're not relaying and keeping in contact with Amanda Waller, the bomb will go off. So yeah, they're basically stuck in this situation. And then all of a sudden, they're told that there's actually a fifth member, but there's only 4 people here. So they're like, okay, where's the fifth member? And then that's when the plane starts nose diving. And Adam rushes over to the cockpit, sees that the 2 pilots are like dead or unconscious. And the plane ends up crashing and either kills Adam or just knocks him out. But he's down for the count. Harley is able to get up and she goes to the cockpit, sees that the pilots and Adam are done for, sees that there's a sword ebbed into the cockpit plane, and she uses that to break free of her bindings. And then she opens up the door and she goes to step out when she falls, and she's grabbed by Deadshot. And basically they realize that they're teetering on the edge of a cliff and that they're in this like weird floating island, and that there's an army of what looks like either humans or elves or both fighting against a bunch of orcs. And they're like, what the hell is this? Like, what's going on? Meanwhile, Clayface breaks open the door on the other side and is like, hey, we can hop off through this side. And they just step out and they're just taking in their surroundings. They're like, okay, there's all these like pigmen looking creatures. There's a huge fantasy battle. Is this some kind of movie set? And then that's when some of the orcs show up and confront the humans, confront the Suicide Squad, and attacks them. And Harley gets cut on the face, and that's when she realizes, holy cow, like, this isn't a movie set, this is real. Which is kind of funny, like, you would think this is a movie set when you're on a floating island. Like, I don't think any studio has a budget for that. But, yeah, they realize that this is real, that they're in the fantasy world. They get ready to start fighting the Orcs when the 5th member shows up, and it's King Shark. And so we have the Suicide Squad fighting these Orcs, and as they're doing that, we get little title shots of all the characters. So we get a title shot of King Shark, Harley, Clayface, Peacemaker, and then Deadshot. And for Deadshot, what he does is he uses his wrist gun to shoot at the leader of the Orcs. Because he's basically like, okay, the leader has got to be someone held back, not near the front lines, and it's got to be like the ugliest one of this group. And so they immediately see the leader. They shoot the leader, kill him. All the Orcs see their leader get killed. They freak out. They run away. And then these elf-looking dudes show up, and they see King Shark, and they immediately think, oh, this guy, these are villains. But then they like shoot his sword away, and Clayface basically explains that, you know, we're here, we're humans, we're on your side, we fought the Orcs away. He realizes, oh, like the whole peace thing that Peacemaker was talking about, this has got to be what they mean. Like, we're here as a peace envoy for these elven creatures. And he explains that, I've heard about this before. This is like Alice in Wonderland. Harry's like, the Lewis Carroll book? And he's like, yeah, but I think nowadays they call it something different. They call it Isekai. We've been transported to another world. And he goes to the leader of these soldiers. He's like, we're a peace envoy. We're from another world. Take us to your leader so that we can communicate with them. And then immediately cuts to them in prison. Which kind of makes me wonder, like, why would they allow themselves to be thrown in prison again? That doesn't really make any sense. I was kind of weirded out by that. It was like a funny gag where we see them, like, you know, talking to the elves, and then immediately we see them behind bars. Yeah, they're thrown in prison, and they're just kind of arguing. Like, Deadshot's is constantly bickering with Peacemaker. And then we cut to this other section of this world where we see this giant tree, and there's this like weird monstrous female figure within the tree, like talking about how there's beings from another world, and how, like, you know, well, looks like we're gonna have to keep our eyes on them. Isn't that right, my little trailblazers? And then we see the trailblazers, and the trailblazers are Katana, Ratcatcher, the Thinker, Enchantress, and Killer Croc. And that's how the episode ends. So those characters are going to be in this as well. So that's the first episode. And I was like, all right, you know what? This was actually pretty good. Like, leave it to Japan to do better superhero stuff than Marvel and DC is currently doing. Like, how sad is that? But yeah, I like this. I thought this was pretty good. I was listening to the Japanese audio for this, and I think the voice acting was pretty well done. It is kind of weird to hear Harley and Joker and characters like that talking in Japanese, but whatever. The fight scenes themselves, I think the action scenes were pretty cool, especially the ones where the Suicide Squad was fighting against the Orcs and just kicking butt. And when Harley was taking out Argus in the bar, like, that fight scene was kind of cool too. I like the designs for the characters so far. The animation is pretty good. So yeah, I thought this was a pretty awesome episode so far. Like, I really enjoyed this. I thought this was really good. And let's dive into episode 2 and see how that goes. So yeah, there's episode 1. I hope you guys enjoyed. Episode 2 will be up tomorrow. And see you next time. Later. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you didn't, I still want to thank you for watching it this far. And I hope the next one is more to your liking. With that said, thank you once again. And I hope you guys and gals have a good one. Later.